And we're off and underway. Here comes the chase behind. This is a good move now. Lining himself up to the sprint. Is he going to take the stage? Yes, he is.
Hello, welcome to Wrexham for the start and finish of Stage 2 of this year's Tour of Britain. Very much the Hollywood of North Wales these days after the film star investment in the local football club. I'm sure you've noticed it, but we're bringing our own star quality to Wales and Cheshire today after a fast, furious finish into Deansgate yesterday. The first stage of this year's Tour of Britain rolled out in the sunshine in the town of Altrincham to basically do a lap of Greater Manchester ahead of the riders. 8 stages culminating in 1,271 kilometres and 12,970 metres of climbing. Early on though, Martin Budding was the first casualty with a very early crash.
That looked nasty.
It wasn't long though before a 5-man break took shape and got up the road, including Fouché, Cuffin, Rutkin Gray, Tanfield and De Versnes, getting their maximum lead up to around 2 minutes 20. It probably wasn't enough to see them through to the end on Deansgate. The first sprint point in Hazel Grove was won by Harry Tanfield from James Fouché, but it was the New Zealander who did best on the 2 climbs of the day, securing the KOM jersey after the end of the first day's stage.
10 points in the bank. Thank you very much, James Fouché.
Jos van Emden took a solitary point. He led the peloton over the summit of the second climb. Ineos Grenadiers and Jumbo-Visma doing their best to control the chase.
Now the gap comes down again.
Once the break was caught, though, not far from the finish in Deansgate, it was all set up for a bunch sprint.
Wout van Aert looks round to see where Olaf Koy is. Koy opening up his sprint. Olaf Koy, the pre-race favourite. Olaf Koy, the winner. Jumbo-Visma, they're a winning machine.
And of course, after day one, the GC mirrors that finish into Deansgate in Manchester with Olaf Koy in the leader's jersey at the Tour of Britain, followed up by his teammate Wout van Aert, and the podium rounded out by former Irish champion Sam Bennett, highest placed British rider Ethan Vernon in 5th. I'm joined here in Wrexham now by former pro, multiple stage winner in all the Grand Tours, David Miller. And David, I know that you and Ned in commentary yesterday, you identified Olaf Koy as being the favourite for the stage, and he delivered. Why is he so talented?
Well, he's very young, and throughout the season he's been consistent in his winning in a multitude of different types of races. Almost every stage race he's gone to, he's won a stage. He's very young, and I didn't know much about him, and unless you're in the scene, you wouldn't know much about him because of his youth and the fact he's just arriving on the scene. But yesterday was a huge stepping stone for him. To be here with Jumbo-Visma, who are the world's #1 team, Wout van Aert, your lead-out man, and deliver the goods, goes to show he's the real deal.
He really is the real deal, and some other great sprinting talents at this year's Tour of Britain, the likes of Sam Bennett and Fernando Gaviria. Let's hear from the sprinters right now.
We don't have a pure sprinter here, so it's not really suited to us as a team.
Talking about the lead-outs, me, Olaf, Nathan and Edo, yeah, I think we're 4 really strong guys who will help each other in the final kilometer. So
the art of lead-out is you just bring the sprinter as fresh as possible into the last 1K or 500 meters.
You sometimes just need to trust your instinct. Yeah.
I think it's a little bit of instinct, but also you can definitely learn it.
I think sprinting is actually quite a mindset, being willing to risk it a bit, I guess, but also, positioning.
Cavendish just blocked there as Hayter takes the line, moves to the front.
And Groenewegen now hits the front.
It's Jake Stewart and Kees Bolt. Stewart hanging on.
You've got to be willing to take some risk at the end, and also seeing the pieces of the puzzle at high speed coming together in that final and making the right decisions of what wheels to follow, what gaps to go through, and then executing it.
Here comes a big lunge from Mike Woods from the Israel Premier Tech team. It's going to be Woods at the line.
You need to show confidence to your sprinter. When I'm the sprinter, I like to see that the guy in front of me is willing to give 100%. And when I'm doing the lead out, I try to do the same.
Lead outs are actually easier when there's a corner in the last kilometre because it strings it out, so it gets rid of that big bubble at the front.
You can learn a lot from watching races as well. I think everything's done before those last few hundred metres, and then from there you're just full gas sprinting. So
it's all about timing. Like yesterday, for example, so I just work out kind of roughly in my head with 1.5k to go. Okay, it's a 20-second flat-out effort now.
Bora Hansgrohe sees control at the front again. I think it's Ryan Mullen doing a turn on the front.
Positioning is an important part, and having support riders to bring you in that position, or launching the sprint, that can be crucial to win.
Mathieu van der Poel now makes his move. Can anyone answer?
You've got the guys riding all day and taking the wind and setting the team up for them final few Ks, and then the final guys, it's about being smooth and getting through the gaps, opening up the gaps and making it wider.
It's my job to make sure they have the safest and smoothest run into the last 30 seconds of the bike race. It means I take all the risk, but I ultimately get no reward.
It happens unbelievably fast, and actually having that planned in your head and then watching what's going on and making that split-second decision is the difference between winning and losing.
David, what do you think? Can we expect more of the same today, or will it be slightly different given the nature of the course?
The nature of the course is going to make it very different. 110 kilometres is very short in pro cycling terms, and it does mean it's going to be flat out from the very start. I mean, if an attack goes, there's no playing games, there's no cat and mouse, there's none of that mid-stage lull. The peloton, it can't let them get a big gap. But that also does mean 110 kilometres, everybody can race flat out for that whole distance. There's no fear of you running out of gas. So for me, I think it's going to be a very exciting day and hopefully a very fast day.
It sounds a bit stressful, doesn't it, really? Let's have a closer look now at today's Wrexham stage.
One of two stages in this year's edition of the race that will start and finish in the same place. Stage 2 marks the Tour's return to the North Wales city of Wrexham for the first time in 8 years. The clockwise route travels across the border into Cheshire before returning to Welsh soil after Threepwood. The 110-kilometre stage will be the second shortest point-to-point road stage in Tour history, but with a late KOM climb at Eiton, this fast stage could end up having a sting in its tail. Wrexham is a bustling, modern location surrounded by lovely countryside and delightful villages. Two of Wrexham's most famous exports are beer and, yes, football, with origins dating back to 1881. One of the city's most loved landmarks is St Giles's Parish Church, which sits barely 500 metres away from the start and finish line of Stage 2, and is regarded as one of the finest examples of ecclesiastical architecture in the whole of Wales.
The team buses are empty, the riders are ready to roll on Stage 2 here in Wrexham, so here's your commentary team of David Miller and Ned Bolting.
Thank you very much, Matt. I'm really looking forward to this one, not least because it's 109.9 kilometres and a slightly shorter shift than normal. They roll off the start line with the distinctive jerseys being worn for the most part by Jumbo-Visma. Wout van Aert in the green points jersey, and the red, white and blue, predominantly blue leaders jersey of the Tour of Britain is being worn, of course, by Olaf Koy. David Miller alongside me to commentate throughout the next 109.9 kilometres and indeed the rest of the week. David, I have had a chat with the commissaires finally, and this is slightly unprecedented, this race, because as I think we alluded to yesterday, there are almost no races in recent history, stage races, which have featured no time bonuses. So currently, we have got 79 riders after yesterday's race, all on 0 seconds, all on the same time. And there's every chance that we'll have a similar number at the end of today, all on 0 seconds. So how do you determine who is the leader of the general classification? It is actually all about your aggregate placings.
So you're essentially just adding up your positions, and whoever's got the lowest number.
So whoever's got the lowest number divided by the number of stages that have been raced, and that's what it is. So I think that adds another layer of kind of almost ferocity to the occasion, in the sense that the general classification, you've just got to be up there every day.
Well, I think this is what we were saying yesterday about the importance for Ineos Grenadiers making sure Tom Pidcock is always up there and always placed, considering he is their GC leader. They can't simply rely on the Caerphillian and getting the time gap, because let's face it, it's going to be difficult to time gap Wout van Aert.
Very.
You've got to be aware that it's probably going to come down to this aggregate count. So yeah, every stage matters, and that we were perhaps questioning having no time bonuses would make neutralise the racing somewhat, but actually it's going to make it more animated.
Luke Rowe in relaxed conversation there with Alex Richardson of St Piran, who placed two riders in the breakaway yesterday. I was talking to their camp down at the start line here, well, the same line, the start and the finish line here in Wrexham this morning. And they are very much sticking with that tactic. Julian Wynne, one of the directors sportifs of St Piran, was telling me it's what we do. St Piran have to get riders up the road every day, and ideally, if there's a breakaway of any bigger than 4, they've got to have 2 riders. Well, we're going to get a race underway fairly soon. They are, as you can see, rolling out of the neutral. Mick Bennett there is just controlling the lead rider and making sure that he stays, that rider from 36.5. Just holding them there. Oh, we've got
Carlos
one rider
Rodriguez.
off the back, Carlos Rodriguez.
A little instant there. I think he's just had a little fall, I think, coming out that roundabout.
Just a bit scuffed up. His chain's dropped. So the race won't start until Rodriguez is back in.
One to the left, I think.
There he is, just on the...
Oh, there he is. Yeah, he's just had a little fall.
Oh, yeah, he's gone down quite hard.
Yeah.
And quite slow as well.
Yeah, the worst. No inertia to dampen the fall.
So that is kilometre 0 that they've just passed through. And as you can see, they're holding it because Carlos Rodriguez has not regained his place in the peloton. In the little village of Rosrobin, there's another rider. It's a Flanders Baloise rider by the looks of it, who's still just weaving his way back. That rider is their sprinter, Milan Fretin. The lead car pulls away, the flag drops. Stage 2, the Wrexham stage, the shortest stage in the Tour of Britain, 109.9 kilometres, and a fascinating prospect because of its brevity. Will there be any attacks? When they come, what size of a breakaway will get up the road, and how will the peloton react? What kind of gap will they give them? At the moment, nobody looks like they want to attack at all. That's definitely Alex Richardson from St Piran, so in trademark style, St Piran, the first team to attack.
Harry Tanfield there in 3rd position. You can see already how fast this is. Niels Pollitt policing the front of the peloton there. So the World Tour teams are already at the front. Perhaps and Lucro there in 2nd place, perhaps just trying to intimidate slightly the peloton, showing that they want to control this, which is a common tactic.
Niels Pollitt is not riding this down, is he? He's just keeping a high pace that is perhaps deterring a large number of counter-attackers, but he's not actually shutting it down. I think they'd be very happy, wouldn't they, the World Tour, for this to be the breakaway of the day.
Well, I think with the shortness of the stage, they can't really let the break go anywhere. They want to keep it within a minute, probably, so perhaps they're indicating, the World Tour teams, that they're just going to be riding all day, so they're not going to let anything get very far away. And certainly nothing over 3 or 4 riders.
Got to let something go, though, haven't they? Just for the sake of the race. TDT Unibets, the next team to attack Trinity as well, with a rider off the front. First time we've seen Trinity trying to get in a move.
But this is a show of force from the World Tour teams at the front. Another TDT rider going. Is that Harry Tanfield again?
Yeah, it is Tanfield. It is. Got a feeling that's Martin Budding, actually, who crashed yesterday. Might well be him. Uno X as well, with a couple of riders trying to get up the road, so no sign yet that a break has gone.
But it's the World Tour teams at the front who are keeping a very short leash on this peloton. Whenever it moves, we saw it was Niels Pollitt for Bora Hansgrohe, then Jumbo-Visma, Luke Rowe ever present at the front for Ineos Grenadiers. So I think that is deterring attacks.
Bolton Equities, that's Jake Scott in the purple jersey. Following this move, I think it's Martin Budding, but I'll wait, and then St Piran have a rider at the front of the race as well, almost inevitably. Again, it's a 3-rider group. That's probably the maximum that the World Tour teams would allow, but it looks like they are allowing this one. And these 3 have got themselves together, and they've got themselves a bit of a lead, and by the looks of it, that might be the break of the day. Now, Uno X might think otherwise. They might try and get a rider across still, but already that gap has gone up to 5 or 6 seconds. And it looks relatively calm at the front of the bunch. There's a predominance of yellow and red jerseys belonging to Jumbo-Visma and Ineos Grenadiers.
Yeah, they really are just trying to shut this race down. Another attack there.
It's a green jersey, might be Global 6, I think. Yeah, a Global 6 rider. They haven't featured in the first breakaway of the day. And that's normally how they go about their participation in the Tour of Britain. Quite often see one of their riders in a breakaway, so the first real showing from them.
Yeah, at the moment it is looking a lot calmer than I expected.
Callum Ormiston from Global 6.
Just hearing on race radio that Gaviria from Movistar has crashed.
Oh, well, he trailed in 2.5 minutes down, didn't he? And he's having no luck at the moment, Fernando Gaviria, at all. This is the moment then that unseated Fernando Gaviria. Where is he?
On the left-hand side there, just there he goes. Wow, it's just, it's quite a serious crash. That was a very strange one.
His season has just gone from bad to worse. He had a crash. His director sportif, Max Yandry, was reminding me in the World Road Race in Glasgow, and he hasn't really recovered from that crash yet, so woe upon woe for him. So Ormiston's nearly across, and that makes it 4 riders, which is just 25% more difficult to deal with than it was previously. Well, there is Fernando Gaviria, who Carlos Verona has waited patiently for at the back of the bunch, hasn't actually dropped back to pace him back, but now I think Verona will look after Gaviria and try and help him just gain a place a little bit further up this pretty small peloton of 92 riders.
Yeah, Gaviria looks like he might have a little bit of an issue with his bike, on a spare bike.
Right, yeah, went down hard, didn't he, Gaviria? Both body and bike would have been damaged by that. What is Fernando Gaviria up to there? He hasn't got back to the peloton. He looked like he might be about to get some medical treatment, or perhaps he just received some medical treatment from the doctor's car. He's close to back, but he hasn't actually got back into the bunch, so slightly hard to read what's going on with Fernando Gaviria. Suffice to say, though, that it has not started well for the unfortunate Colombian from Movistar. Perhaps, once again, it's not going to be his day. I'm led to believe that this farm produces ice cream. By the looks of it, a lot of people are parked up for it today. Yeah, and a bit of a theme park attached as well.
Kids' dreamland.
Adults' nightmare. This was what the doctor handed over.
And his palms. That's one of the reasons you wear mitts. Is the majority of pro cyclists don't wear gloves training, but in racing you do, to protect your palms if you have a crash, because it's one of the injuries that actually is.
It's a relatively trivial injury.
It's a trivial injury, but it's incredibly important because as you can see, you can't hold the handlebars, and for a sprinter, then how's he going to sprint?
That you're looking at there is a problem. This is Beeston Castle. 13th century former royal castle of Beeston, overlooking the route. That is Beeston Crag that it sits on the top of, part of the Mid-Cheshire Ridge. And it is said on a clear day, and we've definitely got a clear day today, albeit perhaps a little bit hazy, that if you stand up there and turn around, you can actually see 8 counties. But that was quite a sight, wasn't it, Beeston Castle?
23 seconds, that means this group doesn't even have neutral service. So
that camera bike might be pulled out fairly soon.
That breakaway is just playing the game.
Yeah.
They are
forcing Jos van Emden just to ease up, which is probably not much to his liking, actually. He just wants to crack on and get it done, doesn't he?
To the benefit of Jumbo-Visma, though, it means they don't need to use more than one rider, which means they will have more for the final. And it's one of the reasons Bora Hansgrohe are not contributing either. They want to save all their riders for that lead out.
So this looks like it should be 13th or 12th century. It isn't. It's a Folly built in the mid-19th century, 1844. It was started work and it was finished in 1850. And originally it was built by a gentleman called John Tolmack, and I think I pronounced that right, who was a wealthy Cheshire landowner and a member of Parliament. So he probably claimed expenses for the heating. On to the only categorised climb of the day, the climb to Ayton. It's a long, gradual affair. There's the start. And when they get to the top, they will have done around about 2 kilometres. But it's only an average of just under 3% average gradient. The Category 3 climb, that means there are 4 points on offer at the top, 3, 2 and 1 respectively. So they should, in theory, be swept up by the 4 riders at the front of the break. But there's only 10 seconds now of a gap between the peloton and the breakaway. And for that reason, just lurking in around about 7th or 8th place there, you can see the black jersey of James Fouché, the Bolton Equities Black Spoke leader of the King of the Mountains competition, who has to be alert to the possibility that these 4 could potentially be caught before the top of the climb.
And it's Stockman that once again is just piling the pressure on. Fouché's teammate on his wheel, now just coming to the front. So there have been no team orders for those riders who do have a vested interest, or a team have a vested interest in the team in the mountain classification, to slow down. They're keeping it going, but you can see the natural progression of the peloton, the other teams coming up. That's going to lift the pace, although Jumbo-Visma were dictating completely before. Now they're going to have to lift their pace to hold that position at the front, and that's going to close that gap down as well.
Jake Scott continuing to ride, the teammate of James Fouché. Movistar now getting themselves sorted on the right-hand side of the road with Carlos Verona setting the pace for them. 500 metres to go. These 4 are going to indeed take all the mountains points between them, and I wouldn't be at all surprised to see the rider in 3rd place with that purple jersey on and the green band across his midriff, who's looking around now. Jake Scott, I think, would be, along with Abram Stockman, the most keen to try and take these 4 points. And there's James Fouché. So it's a late bid to try and get across this 10-second gap and then work with Jake Scott. So Scott was actually looking round, anticipating the point where his teammate might come across. And if they can pull this off, it's very impressive.
Yeah, he's left it a bit late, but with Fouché there in 2nd place.
Ooh, this is going to be tight, isn't it? Surely it's only about 150, 200 metres. Scott knows he's coming, but Stockman's pushing on hard now. Finn Crockett. Oh, Fouché's left it too late.
Still, he's stuck between a rock and a hard place.
That's the top, yeah. So, yeah, well, Finn Crockett picked up the 4 points. Jake Scott picked up 2nd place and 3 points. Abram Stockman was in 3rd, picking up 2. The final point went to Callum Ormiston. And James Fouché, after all of that, if he'd done that just a nats earlier, that might have worked.
Yeah, it was a good move, but it was an absolute commitment. If he'd gone earlier, then I think it would have been a done deal.
Right idea, wrong execution, potentially, by Bolton Equities Black Spoke, but fair play to them for having a go. I think we know what James Fouché's race is all going to be about now between here and the finish line in Caerphilly. He wants that jersey. Meantime then, order is restored at the front. They've gone over the only categorised climb of the day in Ayton, but the road continues to rise.
Looks like Jake Scott's gone back into the peloton as well.
Oh, no, he's still there. Yep, still there. That must have been Ormiston, who's been reassumed back into the peloton. Finn Crockett pushing on. The next line in the road is not far up the road. Just a handful of kilometres, maybe 3k from here, is the intermediate sprint at Johnstown. Not really much to be gained, though.
Yeah, but Jake Scott has realised that the day's over.
These are the results confirmed by the commissaires. Finn Crockett in 1st place, taking 4 points. Jake Scott, the 2-time winner of the King of the Mountains competition at the Tour of Britain, in 2nd place with 3 points. Abram Stockman 3rd with 2 points, and James Fouché, there we go. After all that, did get 4th place, and he came past Callum Ormiston, unseen by the camera really, but James Fouché picked up 1 point, the leader of the King of the Mountains competition, to add to his tally. Looking strong, Finn Crockett. Stockman as well. Those two the strongest and the most motivated of the 4 riders in the breakaway, and that's all that remains of the breakaway. These two swapping turns and doing what they can to hold on to a very, very slender 10 seconds. And when they get through the intermediate sprint at Johnstown, then it levels off for a couple of kilometres and then kicks back up at a similar gradient to the Ayton climb. So another 4 kilometres or thereabouts, 3 or 4 kilometres of around about 2 and a bit %, dragging up over the top of that climb and then dropping down rapidly into Wrexham all the way thereafter.
That peloton is ominous though. Teams all starting to position. Pace lifting. You can see how small that gap is now as those 2 riders.
Yeah, that's more of a 5 or 6 second advantage. And in fact, I think there's one of the riders dropped away. No, they're still both together. But they are locked and loaded now, and these two have no chance of making it to the line in Wrexham. DSM now, very much on the front foot. They're riding for Casper van Ouden and hoping to put right. There was a slightly deflated feeling around the DSM team bus this morning after the underperformance of their squad on yesterday's stage. Their best placed rider at the finish line was actually Nicolas Merkel, who wasn't their protected sprinter. He came across the line in 11th place. And the best that Casper van Ouden could do was 26th, which is way below their aspirations, DSM. So they've been instructed quite clearly to set about putting that right, and there they are on the right-hand side of the road, the massed ranks of DSM, all lined out, and this time working for Casper van Ouden. Concerted effort.
Yeah, all the teams now just choosing their section of the road. Jumbo-Visma still just keeping the sharp end slightly.
1 kilometre to go to the intermediate sprint. There are points available in the points competition for the first 5 riders across the line. Assuming these 2 riders are still out there, they'll pick up 10 points and 7 points respectively, then 5 points remain for whoever might be interested. They should just be swept up by the peloton, but you never know.
I think that was just a word being shared, asking if he's going for the points or not. I think they both are. There's nothing else to do.
500 metres to go for the pair at the front of the race. 6 seconds, their advantage. And their final little flurry of action will be a 2-up sprint here to see who takes the 10 points at Johnstown. Stockman looking round, checking that that gap is big enough for them to finesse their efforts a little bit. Just drag up all the way to the line here. Finn Crockett allows Stockman to come alongside him and just sits on the wheel of the Belgian.
Yeah, well, it seems like Stockman isn't that interested in the sprint, otherwise he would have just stayed on Crockett's wheel there.
Crockett's fast as well, he has got a turn of speed about him. Uno X taking up quarter on the left-hand side of the road. DSM, Movistar, and that was it, they've just rolled through. Yeah. So, absolutely right, Abraham Stockman rolling through ahead of Finn Crockett. And a flat peloton, so I don't know who picked up 3rd place and 5 points there. But nobody darted out to try and take those 5 points. It really wasn't worth the effort. So we are 15 kilometres from the finish, and it flattens out now for the next kilometre or so, and then drags up for around about 3 or 4 kilometres, and then drops down into Wrexham. Welcome back. And the catch is going to happen now. DSM on the right-hand side of the road, Bora Hansgrohe and Jumbo-Visma down the middle. Trinity Racing have got themselves really well organised. Luke Lamperty with a teammate towards the front. Uno X on the left-hand side of the road, and there they come. And the catch is effected, 12.6 kilometres from home. And the result of the only intermediate sprint on the day, Abraham Stockman and Finn Crockett from the breakaway picked up the first 2 places. Frederik Dversnes of Uno X ahead of Patrick Bevan and Jos van Emden from the bunch. So Movistar on the right-hand side of the road, Bolton Equities with 1, 2, 3, 4 riders down the middle. Great Britain still there with Ethan Vernon being supported by 2 or 3 of his teammates.
Movistar doing a good job here.
They are, aren't they?
Been up there now for a few kilometres, just holding that side of the road. Bora Hansgrohe being swamped somewhat momentarily at the front, but now nowhere to be seen.
Huge figure of Josh Giddings, who is the rider with the red helmet you can see in the Great Britain kit. Half a foot taller than any of his teammates. He's got the responsibility of looking after Ethan Vernon, who's wearing that white helmet just tucked in on his wheel. Good showing from the Great Britain team at this point. Being marshalled and stewarded and controlled from the team car by a combination of John Herity and Matt Bramier. Olaf Koy's just directly lost the wheel of Wout van Aert, you can see there. Just trying to find a little gap there alongside Sam Bennett and that rider from Q36.5, and it's just not opening for him. And at the moment, he's just a bike length back from where Wout van Aert has placed himself in the bunch. And it's got a congested feel to it now, and they're starting to drop down in towards Wrexham. It's going to be very fast from here to the finish line.
Yeah, Ineos Grenadiers have done a great job. Got all their riders up there. Movistar continuing to hold their position. Bora Hansgrohe rallying behind somewhere.
Some of the riders who've done their work are content now to drop away. One of those being Steven Kruijswijk, can be of no further use to Jumbo-Visma, where it's Nathan van Hooydonk, Eduardo Affini and Wout van Aert who have control for Olaf Koy, who's now got the wheel of Wout van Aert again. Down the middle, you can see the blue, white and red leaders jersey there. Meantime, Ineos Grenadiers own the left-hand side of the road, as they so often do with Jumbo-Visma alongside them. DSM battling for position now alongside Movistar on the other side of the road as they sweep left-handed into the outskirts of Wrexham, approaching the city from the south.
Yeah, you can see this technical section already beginning. This is why the positioning is so important early on here, because it will start to string out this risk of crashes, whiplash effect. So at the moment, Ineos Grenadiers and Jumbo-Visma and Movistar in particular are riding this exactly how they'd have planned to.
Yeah, David, this is not a boulevard sprint, is it?
No.
It really isn't. It's the opposite of that. Lots of technicalities. Here's where your homework is important. Most of these riders went out. They wouldn't have gone this far out and ridden in the last 10K, but they did, a lot of them, have a look at the last 2 or 3 kilometres of today's parcours.
Yeah, and that will have helped them. They'll know where they need to be, when they need to be. Trinity Racing up there again, so that's good to see. Looking after Luke Lamperty.
Lamperty with one lead-out man. Really well placed Lamperty at the moment. Down the middle in that light blue jersey with the black shorts and that yellow light green, lime green stripe down the middle. Ben Turner has got the back of Tom Pidcock. 2 more different riders from Yorkshire, and that just colossal difference in their stature. But Turner's just guarding the back wheel of Tom Pidcock, who really is being looked after by Ineos Grenadiers. Olaf Koy still on Wout van Aert's wheel. Alongside him then, the young Stian Fredheim of Uno X in a white jersey. They've got 2 different sprint options. It could be that they'll ride instead today for Tour de Gudmestad.
Bora Hansgrohe are still conspicuous in their absence.
Yeah, they are. Just lost a little bit of position. Jumbo-Visma as well, just trying to get themselves back into order as Trinity Racing have another rider towards the front. And Movistar, very disciplined riding from Movistar. You can see Max Canter there, he's got 3 riders in front of him, including Gonzalo Serrano, the rider with number 1 on his back, last year's champion.
Yeah, it's been great riding from Movistar so far. That's exactly what Bora Hansgrohe should be doing.
And aren't.
Ineos Grenadiers, though, have learned from yesterday. They are using all their force in this final section, understanding the importance that Tom Pidcock is well placed at the finish line.
Well, hats off to Trinity Racing, mixing it with Jumbo-Visma and Ineos Grenadiers. It's those 3 teams at the front, and Trinity are there in numbers now. Luke Lamperty, very, very well placed.
Yeah, great riding from them.
Displacing Movistar at the front of the race, and DSM and Movistar engaged in that little battle between those teams on the right-hand side of the bunch. At the back, Steven Kruijswijk is still there. It's all strung out. Gosh, the narrow country roads now.
It's like a roller coaster.
Really is. 5.4 kilometres to go. Breathless stuff.
This is
so technical.
This is where this positioning is so important. Because Grenadiers have done their homework. They've not waited. Bora Hansgrohe are playing the gambling game, waiting for the last minute, but at the moment it's going to be difficult to move up on these roads.
Well, this is such an unconventional approach to a bunch sprint, isn't it? It really is. Really unusual. Nerves of steel being demonstrated by these riders here.
Jumbo-Visma in perfect position, using Ineos Grenadiers and Trinity Racing to their advantage. Movistar just trying to get themselves back together on the right-hand side of the road.
Yeah, Bora Hansgrohe getting themselves a little bit sorted. They're on the left-hand side of the road now. Danny van Poppel, Ryan Mullen, they are principally, and Danny van Poppel The riders there to look after Sam Bennett in the business end of a bunch sprinters. Ineos Grenadiers with Magnus Sheffield find themselves on the front, 4.5 kilometres to go. Movistar trying to get Max Canter and Gonzalo Serrano back where they had them, as Jumbo-Visma as well look to just reorganise a little bit, and Wout van Aert just slots onto the wheel of Nathan van Hooydonk, and Eduardo Affini hits the front. Olaf Koy bang where he needs to be on the wheel of Wout van Aert.
DSM there on the right-hand side, just moving up.
Carlos Verona dropped back. He's done his bit for Movistar, but he is off the back already as they sweep lightning fast through 4 kilometres to go.
Ineos Grenadiers nailing this so far. Still Lucro in reserve there, and Ben Turner on the wheel of Tom Pidcock.
Very efficient racing from Ineos Grenadiers at this point now. This time yesterday it was all about Jumbo-Visma, and Jumbo-Visma want to be, you think, you feel, where Ineos Grenadiers are, dictating the pace, setting the terms out in this complicated technical approach to the final kilometre.
Well, at the moment this is working to their advantage in the sense that they don't have to be right on the front. They're trying to move up on the side there of Ineos Grenadiers, trying to squeeze through that gap.
Finding it as well. Finding it, Ben Turner flicks his head and moves over to the left-hand side of the road, where Ineos Grenadiers take up station on the right-hand side of the road, and Koy on the wheel of Van Aert. Van Aert looks around, checks, and they're all there. So Affini, Hooydonk, Van Hooydonk, Van Aert and Koy. Then come the DSM trio of riders with Casper van Houten.
Lucro takes over. Sheffield did a big turn there. Got Ben Turner on his wheel. Tom Pidcock still in good place, but now they're matching either side of the road. Jumbo-Visma there on the right-hand side of the road, and Ineos Grenadiers just holding, trying to match them on the left-hand side.
Fredheim, I think, might be leading out toward Gudmestad. We'll have to keep an eye on that for the Norwegian team of Una X. 3 kilometres to go. Jumbo-Visma now threatened by Bolton Equities with a big surge up. Just 2 riders there, and a Movistar rider latching onto that train.
Bora Hansgrohe just sitting on the left shoulder of Ineos Grenadiers. Lucro, no doubt, is trying to shut the door on them, but at the moment they are in a good position, if a little bit further back than Ineos Grenadiers and Jumbo-Visma.
It's Gonzalo Serrano in the lone Movistar rider who's just slatted onto the wheel of Rory Townsend, and here come Bora Hansgrohe now. Sam Bennett with his full lead-out train in fine fettle and good effect now. That's it. They've got control of the front of the race with 2.4 kilometres to go. They left it late, but look how effective that is.
Yeah, that was Neil Pollitt just finding that, punching through a hole he found, got round Ineos Grenadiers. But yeah, is it too soon?
Don't know.
I don't think so, because let's not forget the technical section is before 1 kilometre to go, so they know their lead out is most important now.
Jumbo-Visma not having this their own way at all today, and that's a really strong showing from Bora Hansgrohe. Pollitt still on the front, and then Mullen will come, then Danny Van Poppel and Sam Bennett, as Ben Turner now, just the last remaining support rider for Tom Pidcock. Pidcock has to ride, don't forget, all the way to the line to keep as high a GC position as he possibly can, with the overall in mind. Mullen now hits the front, looks around, checks, sees Van Poppel, and then Bennett on the wheel.
Van Hooydonk now on the right-hand side of Jumbo-Visma with Wout van Aert on his wheel, fighting up, sitting a bit further back, so Bora Hansgrohe burning through their lead out now, hoping to deliver Sam Bennett into that through 1 kilometre to go to 800 metres where we have that sharp turn. But Jumbo-Visma and Van Hooydonk moving up.
It's Eduardo Affini in this circumstance, yeah. Affini playing that roll! Oh. Big crash! DSM down! Big, violent crash! Just 1 or 2 riders down there as Affini carries on, though, with his effort, and Wout van Aert with Olaf Koy on his wheel. That was disruptive. Bora Hansgrohe on the radio too. But Bennett has made it through the chaos, and he's on the wheel of Danny Van Poppel. Then it looks like there might be a little bit of a split in the bunch.
Looks like that's it. No one else going to be involved in the sprint. This is down to now, very similar to yesterday, Jumbo-Visma have this under control, but Sam Bennett, in theory, is in prime position.
In really good fettle, and this time, unlike yesterday, he's got Danny Van Poppel to work with as well. But it's as you were, it's a carbon copy to the extent that Jumbo-Visma, inside the final kilometre, have control of the front. Eduardo Affini, dealing with these technicalities, moves over to the right-hand side of the road, sweeping left now, Van Aert on his wheel, Olaf Koy, and it comes back behind Sam Bennett. They have company. Who has joined up and across that gap? It's Luke Lamperty of Trinity Racing. And Max Canter, and Tom Pidcock is there too.
Tom Pidcock is there. It's a big effort they've had to do to close that gap, but hopefully it won't cost them heavily. But Luke Lamperty is in prime position there.
Here comes Wout van Aert now taking over. The lead-out job is fully in tune. Olaf Koy on the wheel of Wout van Aert. A battle there. Danny Van Poppel trying to hold the wheel of Olaf Koy, who hasn't started sprinting yet. Bennett, aware that Van Poppel is just letting the wheel go, has to start sprinting. Van Poppel closes it up. Van Aert alongside him. Van Aert sprinting on for a position. Olaf Koy, and this time Sam Bennett makes it into second place, and I think Van Aert in third. Koy doubles up, and he'll hold on to the lead and extend his advantage. they've done it again. This time a slightly different script, but once again, Van Aert and Jumbo-Visma rode the chaos impeccably. At this point, though, there's a considerable gap that has to be closed by all the other riders in the bunch.
Yeah, you saw behind the frantic. We don't get to see it, but just before we got to this shot, we could see the panic behind. Affini coming in, not taking any risks. I'm not sure how aware he is of what's gone on behind. He will know there's been a crash, but you can see here now he's done before long. And then when Wout van Aert comes round, you'll see Olaf Koy is holding a little bit, sitting off Wout van Aert a little bit, giving himself that room to sprint off. Affini does a great ride making it through there. And now when Wout van Aert starts to wind it up, still sitting down, and then when he starts to stand up, you'll see Danny van Poppel in third place. The lead-out man for Sam Bennett starts to lose that wheel already before Wout van Aert has even sprinted. Sam Bennett senses the danger, is trying to come up, and there you go, Van Poppel just trying more. And there you go, there Wout van Aert, but he now knows from yesterday he's got to keep sprinting. And it's, oh, look at that, there's confusion there.
Yeah.
It was...
yeah, it's Van Poppel who finishes in second place.
And Sam Bennett was not happy with that.
Here's the replay of this big crash from DSM. Try and find out which rider it might have been, but yeah, that's
wow.
And
two of their teammate was so lucky as well. There you go, see on the right-hand side. Oh, the shoulder barging with Olaf Koy,
yeah,
and then bang down. His teammate was so lucky there to stay up.
Just swerved it. No doubt about the winner, Olaf Koy, ahead of the fellow Dutchman, Danny van Poppel, with Wout van Aert in third place this time, and Sam Bennett squeezed off the podium in fourth. Tom Pidcock made it up into ninth, and Ethan Vernon picked up another solid sixth place ahead of Luke Lamperty. Olaf Koy of Jumbo-Visma celebrates again on the podium as the race winner of Stage 2 in Wrexham, thereby consolidating his lead in the general classification. Ahead of Wout van Aert, Bennett still in third, Danny van Poppel pops up in fifth place, and Tom Pidcock makes an appearance in the top 10 on GC, one place ahead of last year's winner, Gonzalo Serrano. He's in 10th. Olaf Koy of Jumbo-Visma leads in the Cottages.com points jersey, thanks in great parts to those two stage wins. And Mark Knight, a local Pinarello owner, presented James Fouché of Bolton Equities Black Spoke with his Pinarello King of the Mountains black jersey again.
Really pleased to say I'm joined here in front of the podium by James Fouché in the Pinarello King of the Mountains jersey. An all black. It's perfect for you as a Kiwi, isn't it? Comfortable in that?
Yeah. It's a bit hot in the heat here, but it goes well with the kit, and obviously the rugby coming up, you can't beat it.
Talk us through today, because your teammate Jacob Scott got up the road, a man who's won this jersey on 2 previous occasions. What was the plan? And then tell us about when you tried to bridge the gap to snaffle some points for yourself.
Yeah, we weren't too sure how the race was going to pan out. If a wee break could get away and you get 2 minutes, it would be pretty hard to bring back on a short stage like this. So we thought about putting someone in there and then focusing on the sprint with our other sprinter, Rory Townsend. Jake got up the road, and obviously he's won the King of the Mountains twice before, so he's got a bit of experience in this classification, so it's good to have him on my team. I think, he got second in the King of the Mountains sprint, I think, and then...
Because you tried to bridge across, it was a 10-second gap, didn't quite make it, but worth a go?
Yeah, definitely. I think with the way the point system is, goes down in one, so I think I nabbed 1 point, which is all good. Yeah, it's good to extend the lead, I guess, yeah.
It's something. There's more on offer tomorrow. Let's have a quick look now at tomorrow's stage in Yorkshire.
Yep.
The 155-kilometre Stage 3 sees the riders setting off in a north-east direction towards the coast via 2 Category 3 King of the Mountains. Towthorpe after 40 kilometres, and then Langtoft some 30k further on. These climbs are unlikely to bother the riders, keeping fresh legs for later on in the stage. The peloton then turns south for a taste of the British seaside along the coast and a sprint at Skipsea. It's then back inland for an expected sprint finish at Beverley Westwood.
So James, 2 Cat 3 climbs coming fairly early on in the stage tomorrow before it hits the coast. What will the plan be for the team?
Yeah, we'll have to have a think overnight and chat to our man Greg Henderson behind the wheel. But with the early on, I think we could either chuck one of us in the breakaway or myself, and you can pick up the points pretty easily. Oh, well, not easily, but pick them up and
have with a little amount of effort rather than the full day out the road. So yeah, we'll have a think about it, and it's flat finish as well. So get up for the sprinter, Rory Townsend again.
You heard it here. He's going to make it look easy tomorrow. I think we can quote him on that. We'll keep our eyes out for that. James, thank you very much indeed. Have a good one tomorrow. That's it for now. So do join us live for coverage 11:15 on ITV4 for tomorrow's Yorkshire Stage and highlights once again in the evening. Bye-bye for now.